OpenAI just released a new set of tools together with a new API and a new SDK. So let's look what is inside and try it out together. Starting with the announcement itself, and the link you can find below, but I'll go to some notes of mine. So they are evolving their platform, and apparently the motivation of how they position it comes from a lot of feedback that production-ready agents they're building can be challenging and often requires extensive prompt iteration and so on. So that's why, to improve the experience, they are introducing a set of new APIs and tools. Among those are a new responses API, which includes the support for web search, file search, and computer use. Also, Agents SDK, so far only in Python, but JavaScript comes along soon, and observability tools. And they plan to introduce more stuff, which we are very curious about over coming weeks and months. So starting with the Responses API. So the Responses API, they call it a new API primitive. And that one will help to connect models to the real world, which actually makes some changes to the position of previously existing APIs. For example, chat completion API will stay as it is. They are saying here fully committed to supporting it with the new models and capabilities. However, Responses API is a superset of chat completion, so I guess we will have to migrate eventually to the Responses API instead of using chat completions. Versus Assistance API will be deprecated with some time, so its date is mid-2026. So if you have used or using right now Assistance API, you will have to move away from it to Responses API. So they're right now working to achieve the full feature parity between the Assistance and Responses API. So Responses API seems to be including everything which, or planned to be included, everything which we have in Assistance, as well as the chat completion API. So, for example, based on their example, let's run this one. So I have here just a simple request to Response API. I have OpenAI installed library. This is JavaScript. And then here I'm already including the tools for web search preview, and I'm asking what is the current weather right now in Berlin, Germany in meters, so that I can actually look into my window and verify if it's correct. And we do node Response API and see what it will return. I ran it yesterday, so it was working. Let's see. So weather in Berlin, Germany, current conditions, sunny, 4 degrees. I can assure you it's kind of like that, maybe a bit colder. And then gives also helpfully daily forecast, and that's it. So this is using an external source over here, getting the information about the current weather conditions. So here we are sending a request to OpenAI Responses API. The properties within the request are slightly different, and also the properties within the response are also different. So the way how you get the output content is slightly different than how it was in the past. What was also different is when we use stream, like the streaming mode. And let me actually run this. So what if I will do the node stream JS and we are no, not this one, stream JS. I will run it, and then so I asked it to actually say double bubble bath 20 times. It didn't really do that, but you have seen this streaming part. Let's try it again. Will it do that? It's very stubborn. Just say it. I can't repeat. But Okay, anyway. It's stubborn, but the whole idea was not really to prove that it cannot or can say that phrase, but that we see the stream in action. And here for the response or like processing those events will be slightly different from how we were doing it before. And I think that the events are looking, I never really paid very deep close attention to how the events will looking, but let me just output, and so you can also see how right now the events seems to look like. So there are several types of events which we will see here. So will be response created, then response is in progress, and then we see those chunks of outputted items. And anyway, so like this is how you see the streaming being produced, and then we can of course put the whole text together, processing those one by one. Okay, so that was streaming. Also, you can do the structured output, how we could do it before. Though I will do the no structured output. It will produce, so here in the description, and this is actually I took from the documentation example, we ask to extract the event information, and then we provide some kind of a content about Alice and Bob, and they're going to science fair on Friday. And we provide also the format in which we have the schema, and then we ask for those properties to be in the response. And we can see that we have the name of the event, we have date, and then we have participants here. So this is similar how we were using it before with the chat completion. So this is the first one, the first part, or not really like the first part, but I'm just going through this document. So this is where we are talking about web search and some other tools. So for web search, and interesting stuff is that any website or publisher can choose to appear in the web search of the API. So if you would like, oh, I could click on this before. If you would like to actually exclude your website, you can use, you can actually prevent that from the OpenAI crawlers. And kind of exclude yourself from that elite group of people who want the information to be shared through OpenAI. So you can do it if you want. So web search is available for all developers in preview in the response API, so you can use it if you want. Then next tool which we have is file search. And when I was looking at file search, I was like already imagining that I provide somehow content of my folder somewhere, I don't know where, but technically actually it's a semantic search. I kind of find it's a bit misleading, the file search, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I would prefer that they call it just semantic search, because that's actually what it does. And this is where we are creating a vector store, we are embedding a document, and then we can use that together with retrieval augmented generation or on its own to access, actually it will be always together with retrieval augmented generation, because it also will be always with OpenAI LLM, not on its own, I'm not sure. But this is where we can take documentation if you have some specific knowledge to your particular product, and you can split this into, or actually you don't even split it into chunk. You give that documentation to OpenAI, and OpenAI will split it into chunk, will embed it, and then will use it as additional context during the request to large language model, so that you don't have to do it manually. And this is actually very convenient, because this is a quite big use case, and I feel that like if this feature gets popular, at least for me, it saves an extra call to embedding API to do it manually on my side, which simplifies things. So definitely useful. So how it looks. So first we need to process, of course, the basic data, which we can search for later. So assume your kind of documentation of your product or something specific which the model was not trained on. Here we kind of create a file. So this is a function which I took again from the examples. So with OpenAI API, we use the files endpoint and we create a file. There is a purpose assistance. I'm not sure if there are other purposes there. Maybe there are. And later, once we edit that file, we create a vector store, and we also set the files, assign the files to that vector store. And later we can search through that. So let's try first this one. I actually got some, I think it's a bug. So if I will do semantic search and I will just upload, and I will, so here I actually already assigned the file, so this should be working after that. But also I will try to run this one where I will just list the files from the vector store. So the vector store I should get by running the create function over here. So if I do that, I will get some successful run commands, but also an exception. Wait, I didn't expect it. Yeah, so actually this is correct. So I got the file ID. I also got the store ID. And then it failed over here because it complained that the vector store ID is object. So even if I will put over here the vector store ID which we got right now, and I will comment out the rest, I still get that error. So I think it's either me doing something silly or there is an error indeed. Because it still says that there is something weird with this value. So yeah, but in any case, I think it actually works because if I assign that file IDs earlier and this doesn't give me an exception, it should be fine. So then, once we uploaded all our documents, we can go to search. Well, we can do search now, kind of like the retrieval augmented generation. And we can ask a question. Here it's like relevant to the uploaded file. What is deep research by OpenAI? And if I will do node semantic search, should get some response. It's like, you know what is tricky, and maybe this like just requires a bit more thinking. Actually, this is maybe an example. So I didn't right now update to my latest vector store. This is my previous run from yesterday. And what I'm thinking is pretty difficult to debug this because the large language model will generate and will have some knowledge already about some of the topics. So here, for example, it already knows what is deep research because it was probably having in some of the training data. So how do I know where to retrieve this information? And then is it really like using the file search, or it just takes the brain of large language model? Because technically with RAG it combines both of them. So there are maybe those tools which they provide also for tracing and debugging. Maybe that's actually where they can help. But yeah, so this is so I updated right now to the latest to the vector store ID which I retrieved when I created that vector store ID. And now over here I'm using again this responses API, and I'm providing the vector store where additional information should be retrieved. Running it again, but to be honest, it's also, I think this is maybe not the best example because it's not very, like, we need something where the information is very specific to that additional file and not the common knowledge. Did it fail? Wait, oh, that's, no, it didn't. It just completed. So yes, it gave us some information on deep research. So yeah, this is a file search, or I would call it probably semantic search. still very, very useful feature. I think it will save additional requests, and people, I guess, do quite a lot of RAG. And if people use both OpenAI large language model and OpenAI embedding model, I think it totally makes sense to combine those within one call, or kind of eliminate extra work you need to do to prepare that information. So the next tool is computer use tool, which captures mouse and keyboard actions generated by the model, and then you can manipulate browser, click on buttons, and do whatever you want. This is similar to operator in Anthropic, and computer use tool, which we had also from OpenAI. Is probably the most challenging tool, I guess, because the challenge actually to isolate your environment so that model doesn't do anything nasty accidentally or not so accidentally. But it's ideal for automating browser-based workflows and other things. They mentioned that they introduced a lot of safety checks to guard against prompt injections, confirmation prompts for sensitive tasks, if you have to enter, for example, like passwords or whatever, tools to help developers isolate their environments and enhance detection of a potential policy violation. However, they still admit that there is a risk because the model is still susceptible to inadvertent mistakes. So human oversight is recommended in these scenarios. But I think it's also kind of a direction where a lot of large language models providers like Anthropic, OpenAI are going, because it's actually a pretty cool thing for some monotonous possible to automate tasks. And here they also give some information on how OpenAI, this computer use tool, performs comparing to the human. I think they should add like a human after a coffee, and then it probably will go like 99%. Human after like lunch without nap, and it will probably decrease to the level of the tool. So I think that human on average, I wonder, it would be nice to see the range how humans can perform, because I guess every human, and even the same human, will perform differently a set of those monotonous tasks. Okay, then we have the last one, Agents SDK. So this is a new open source Agents SDK, which is super, super cool. And it offers agents as building blocks, handoffs, which transfer control between agents. So you can send who is doing next what. And then guardrails, some safety checks for input and output validation and tracing and observability. So here we can debug and optimize that stuff. So it's only in Python so far. So I played with some of those. So let me show like the hello world example, which actually they provided. So to create an agent, so I had to install the agents library. By the way, something which I learned, because I had also like a file over here, just kind of agents Python. So if you have that, this library fails, and I don't know if it's a Python thing or something else, but it just when you try to use agents the same name as a file which you have in the same folder, it fails. I'm not the one who ran into this issue, and that's how I learned what is a solution and what is a problem. But anyway, if it doesn't work, pay attention that you don't have any other agents file in your folder or somewhere next to the whatever you're running. So we create an agent, and then we use a runner from the same library to run that agent. And when we create an agent, we specify like instructions, or like kind of the background information for the agent, and then we give an exact task when we run the agent. And here, like to run some hero code. So I will do right now Python, and then it will be agents Python hello world. Hopefully it will run. So yeah, so it gave some produce some stuff. Okay, so next we can do also how looks the so the tools you can add to that agent. But tools here, actually, you define a function. So here it just it returns just success. But this is just the name of the function where you will get some information there, do some logic, and then return output. And we also, I think, have handoffs here. So handoffs. So this is a triage agent. Super nice, I think, because again, for example, I was doing this manually often, but here you can actually ask to route the user to the correct agent and provide other agents which are there. I wonder how much instructions you actually have to add additionally to make it properly. Or maybe there are kind of sense can be tools combined to do that, but still it feels pretty nice, also kind of organized, because indeed the code to work with LLMs can become messy very, very quickly. Then there is this example with the jokes. Where we use the tools is how many jokes we define it like randomly, number of jokes, and we ask the agent to give that number of jokes. And let's see if we run this one with Python. Python jokes. And then the tool outputted 9, and based off that, the agent created 9 jokes. So yeah, so this is the agent stuff. I'm looking forward to the SDK in JavaScript. That would be really cool. Yeah, so they also say that SDK will work with models from other providers as long as they provide a chat completion style API endpoint, which is actually interesting because here they refer to the chat completion style. And this is chat completion style endpoint was something which was adopted by so many other models. I guess because OpenAI kind of released their API among the first ones, and that's why it influenced how other models took it. And also it's a big player. But it's interesting that they don't require like other LLMs should actually give this response API style endpoint. So that's nice, I guess. And Node.js support coming soon. So that's it from me. I hope this is useful. Tell me if you find these new APIs to be, I don't know, like useful for the kind of scenarios you are working with. And if you are going to switch to the new API, or you are going to stay with chat completion for the time being because you don't see the need in this one. Thank you for watching.